On this week's episode, we're meeting with Linn from Hurtigruten, and we're going to be looking at two of their very special itineraries. They've extended some of their itineraries for their 130th anniversary, and they even have a Northern Lights promise. So we're going to go right over to the episode right now. See you over there. Everybody, and welcome to this week's Cruise Chat. I'm Kathleen Penner, owner of Plenty of Sunshine Travel, and today I'm joined by Linn, and in case you can't see, Linn is from Hurtigruten, and I have had the sheer pleasure of meeting with this cruise line many times. Typically, it's with Kristen, and I'm really looking forward to getting to meet you. So go back and look at that playlist when we're done this video, because we've got some really great content there. But today we're going to be talking about 130 years in Norway, and that's so exciting. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, and I can't wait to learn along with all of my subscribers.
Velkommen alle sammen. Welcome everyone. My name is Linn Wilson, aka Linn the Norwegian. I'm originally from Norway and a Love Boat child, and I have now been selling Hurtigruten in various capacities since 2016. There is a fair to partly cloudy chance that I did hire on with that cheeky Sarah Palin tagline that I can see the ships from my house, because I did indeed grow up watching our wonderful vessels pass my house every day along the Trondheimsfjord. So today we are here to talk about our 130th anniversary, which we celebrated last month. And I also want to talk about a couple new itineraries that we have launched in conjunction with this anniversary. And my colleague, Kristen Ayers, has gone over our classic coastal route in a previous episode. So I would encourage you to go back and watch that at a later time. But for now, let's go over our history, and then I will go over these new itineraries that are quite exciting for the North American client. First things first, though. We are 130 years old as of July 2nd, 2023. Thank you. We look great for our age, but we were founded in 1893, July 2nd to be exact. And our wonderful founder here is Captain Richard Witt. Back then, well, let me pause and take a step back. There are over 1,700 fjords in Norway. So getting from point A to point B, as we would say in Norwegian, det er ikke bare. You can't just, there's no easy way to get from the south to the north without crossing a body of water. So it's quite the challenge to get mail from the southern region to the northern region, or parcels. So mail could take weeks, packages could take months. So in 1891, the government floated out a contract to seafarers. Would anybody be willing to operate a route to make the process a little quicker? So that is where Captain Richard Witt came in, and he commandeered the DS Vesterålen that you see here. And we got our start out of my home city, Trondheim, here, all the way up to Hammerfest. So what happened, what we used to take weeks to months, he essentially managed to achieve in a matter of days. And thus, Hurtigruten was born. And as you've likely heard before, Hurtigruten quite literally translates to the fast route. So we might be a little, maybe we're too literal, but we probably got to Hammerfest and we probably said, huh, it's a fast route. We should call ourselves the fast route. So that's kind of how I envision that we got our name.
Awesome.
And we've never looked back ever since. And you will see that this route has since grown into what we now refer to as the classic route, or the mail route. It now goes from Bergen all the way up to Kirkenes here, then back down to Bergen. Even now, 130 years later, we are an absolute lifeline to the Norwegian coast. So being that lifeline is essentially what's in our DNA with Hurtigruten. And it's important to note that the classic route, before I turn this over to the new itineraries, essentially, they were always meant to be working ships. They were always meant to operate as ferries, carry passengers port to port, provision the coastal communities with cargo, facilitate export, which was a big reason and a big contributing factor to the prosperity of the country. But we also happen to have a really stunning coastline. So over the years, we organically just grew to accommodate more and more leisure travelers. And I think we got a lot of notoriety here in North America in 2011 when we mounted 11 cameras on the MS Nord-Norge. and we documented the entire route from Bergen to Kirkenes. I think it still holds the world record for longest live stream documentary, and you could look it up by minute, but that's
Um,
kind of how we kind of came to be, and people started asking, oh, Hurtigruten, Hurti who? Oh, Hurti, oh, I think I want to go. So that would be the classic route.
that's awesome.
And yes, and if we are tuning in, you have probably thought about Norway. There is no shortage of operators to choose from. So I'd love to just pay tribute to why I think that Hurtigruten is so amazing. So hopefully the first slide there was a compelling argument that there's no nook, cranny, fjord we have not explored. That
Mhm.
Norway is our stomping grounds. We've been there since 1893. We've seen it all. We have decades upon decades of in-house know-how, 130 years of legacy.
Great.
And
Yeah.
we also provide the most authentically Norwegian experience. We have all Norwegian crew. We partner with over 50 local suppliers for food. And it's part of our core DNA to show you Norway like a Norwegian. We're not going to take you to all the touristy traps. We really want you to explore Norway like I would as a Norwegian. We are also industry leaders in sustainability, which I will speak to, and we do provide an amazing culinary experience. So rule number one with culinary experiences, we do not wear tight clothing, and there is no dress code on our ships. So if you
Awesome.
start in jeans, you might end in sweatpants. So, but that
Very
is
fun.
okay.
Yeah. Usually when I'm planning my dresses and my what I'm gonna wear to dinners, I get, the tighter, little more nicer ones at the beginning. And as the week goes on, the empire waist kind of goes. You just go, because you're just constantly full and it's amazing food. So why not, right?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
And
great.
it's okay. You can wear dress to your comfort level. There's
Mhm.
onboard laundry services. It's incredibly laid back. So, but yes,
Wonderful.
just nothing. If it's a little snug before you leave, just leave it on home and pack
That's
the
right.
looser attire.
Yes.
Okay, so sustainability. This
Mhm.
is really near and dear to our hearts. I always find a way to talk about it because sustainability really lies at the core of who we are as well. Sustainability factors into most, if not all, of our operational decisions. So we
Mhm.
were the first major adventure travel company across brands and fleet wide to ban all non-essential single-use plastic. So that was huge, and we're really trying to change the narrative of the game there.
Yes.
And we have built hybrid electric powered vessels. We were the first in 2019 with the MS Roald Amundsen for our Hurtigruten expeditions fleet, and we are currently reconfiguring our existing Hurtigruten Norway fleet as well.
I love that.
And
That's
then
great.
we
And
have,
I know, yeah, like
go
you
ahead.
guys leave the beaches better than what you found them. Like I just love that about you guys. You're just so
Yes.
environmentally friendly, and it's something that resonates with me. And I know that my subscribers feel the same way. It's just great to see. And I think that's an awesome thing that you guys do.
Yes, in 2022, Kristen and I actually went to the Aleutian Islands,
Mhm.
and we had this one beach cleanup activity in an island called Chuginadak Island. It was a Plan B landing, but it was, an unintended consequence of that waste is that, it gets dumped in the ocean and then it gets taken ashore via the currents. So
Yes.
we always leave places in a better condition that we find them. So just on that unexpected landing site last year alone, we collected about 660 pounds of waste, and we did clock well over 5,000 pounds for 2022.
My
And if you would
goodness.
have asked me 10 years ago or told me that one of my favorite hobbies would be to pick up trash, I mean, I get real crazy about my trash grabbers and everything. We walk the walk, and it's really
Mhm.
important to us to be as responsible and to generate awareness as well throughout all
Yes.
of our activities.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So we have the Hurtigruten Foundation. So
Mhm.
you may or may not have heard about this, but it was founded in 2015. It's a collaboration between us, our guests, our partners, and private donors. So essentially, its sole purpose is to fund eco and sustainable projects. So we want to stop unsustainable mass tourism. And so far, we have supported, I believe, over 50 projects in over 13 different countries and over 5 million kroner. And this picture that you see here is called Guardians of the Kelp. So you may or may not know this, but the underwater forests in northern Norway need help. So Guardians of the Kelp essentially restores these underwater forests in northern Norway. These kelp forests provide that vital shelter and food that young cod and other fish, as well as crabs and native sea urchins would need. So this is
Mhm.
just one of many projects that we do opt to fund. And the next question would be, well, Lynn, how do you fund these initiatives? One factor is the Green Stay program. And I'm going to pause here and say that I really want to make sure that the hashtag small actions can collectively have a big impact needs to trend. It's one of my favorite things. And one of the ways we raise money for the Hurtigruten Foundation is through our Green Stay program. So this is basically just saying, I don't need to have my stateroom cleaned. By doing that, you hang this little tag on your door. You're saving water, you're saving chemicals, and for every green stay night, for Hurtigruten Norway, we donate 5 Norwegian kroner, and then Hurtigruten Expeditions, we donate 50 euro cents. So here's where the tagline comes to life.
Mhm.
2022, 183,000 green stay nights, resulting in just about 100,000 euros donated to the Hurtigruten Foundation, simply from guests saying that I'm good. And there's no pressure to do this, but personally, I'm a mother. I have 2 small children. So when I'm on ship, please don't disturb me. My do not disturb sign is always on. I don't want anybody in my space. So
There you
I
go.
contribute heavily to the Green Stay
Mhm.
program. And
Mhm.
it's just one of the many initiatives that we offer here.
That's great. Your room doesn't need to necessarily get cleaned twice a day or every single day, every second, third even. Is perfectly acceptable because we're really not that messy. And I agree, you just don't need it. So that's awesome that it's adding to that program. I love it.
I will say, after day 4, and Kristen and I both were, I guess, read or briefed on this. After day
Mhm.
4, they will insist. They will say, "Lynn, it's been 4 days. I'm coming in." I said, "Okay," and Kristen said the same thing. So when we were in Alaska, we tried to stay on Green Stay, but after a while, they will insist to come in. But you can make it about 4 days. So
Mhm.
small changes, big impact there. And then, but wait, there's more.
Mhm.
We do have goals to build the first zero emissions vessel by 2030. So we're not just talking about sustainability. We are actively conducting research and development. We're actively investing into our existing fleet. And again, I cannot stress enough that the sustainable decision making is across the board, fleet wide. So this zero emission vessel will have the large battery banks, retractable wind and solar sails. We'll have enhanced AI assisted maneuvering, underwater air lubrication, hydrodynamic retractable thrusters, as well as smart cabins with real-time energy monitoring. So this is what we're aiming to come out with in 2030. And in the meantime, we're taking our existing fleet and we are reconfiguring them to be hybrid battery powered along the way. So the future is green with
Yeah,
Hurtigruten.
that's phenomenal. Wow, that's amazing. And I love
Yeah.
that it's, not just, well, it's what we want to do and maybe we'll get there, but you're actually getting there, you're doing it, and that's awesome.
Yes, and the best part, I think, is that it's really changing the narrative of the game. We're not the only ones. There's other operators as well. So, it's not just about, hey, look at us, we're so great. It's really there, it's coming from a good place that we really just want to be an industry leader in sustainability, of course, but the goal is to generate awareness, drive awareness, and to collectively have all the players in the game operate as sustainably as possible.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
You're just
Then
protecting where you're going. Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
And sustainable food will be the last segment on the sustainability segment here. However, it's so we provide a great culinary experience. It's almost a byproduct from our other goals. So it's very important for us to have a circular economy. So we contract with local providers along the coast. So that means that we are injecting funding directly into the coastal communities. This ties into the tagline of being a lifeline to the Norwegian coast. 80% of our food is sourced locally. The sustainability element there is that there's fewer transportation miles, there's less storage energy. We do ensure sustainable sourcing. We ensure the well being of animals and safe origin of ingredients. We've launched a robust vegan menu in 2017. routine that we keep building on, and we do pride ourselves on minimizing and reducing food waste. So we do monitor all of our food waste, and we're always looking for ways to work more efficiently. But the byproduct is that you could really get a whole truckload of scallops from a local port could be on your dinner plate that night, or king crab.
Awesome.
So
But it's so
really fun.
fresh too. It would just
Yes.
taste so much better. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is why we say you start in jeans and end in sweatpants. So just
Mhm.
consider yourself forewarned. It is not a problem to wear clothes that have a little bit of a give. So,
Yes.
okay, so that's a little bit about why Hurtigruten. I hope that that has jazzed you guys up a little bit here. What we've already discussed now is this classic route. So that would be the Hurtigruten founded by Richard within 1893. But we are talking about our anniversary. So what we're primarily going to focus on in today's session would be the Svalbard Express and the North Cape Express.
Mhm.
One pays homage to the past. The other one paves the way for the future and makes new history. So, and also just keep in mind the May through September and the September through April characteristics. So the
Mhm.
Svalbard Express is going to fall primarily during the midnight sun season.
Yes.
So the sun will likely not set, but
Mhm.
just a sidebar, September, a little bit of fall foliage. There's generally one early September departure, fall foliage, onset of northern lights, smattering. So just keep in mind
Beautiful.
primarily midnight sun with a smattering of northern lights at the
Yeah.
end. And then the North Cape Express really covers the vast majority of Norway. And you'll see that it goes from September through April. And that the meat and potatoes of that time frame is peak Northern Light season. And Northern Norway is prime for Northern Lights.
Yes.
So that and but April though is increasing daylight hours. So you're going to have that the shoulder month April, which is more like on the cusp of spring. That's when all the Norwegians come out after these dark winters and we all just act crazy. So if you see us running around frolicking about in April, fear not. We have just gone through a heavy winter, but in Canada, same thing up there. So
And are there little flower buds at that time in April as they're starting the
yes.
growth? Oh, beautiful. That would be a nice
Yes.
time too then. I
So
don't think
when
there
you
is a
see you
bad
see
time to go at all. I mean, there's
never, no.
great things. Yeah.
But you'll see the little tulips, or as soon as we see a bald spot, you can relate. You see the bald spot in
Yeah.
the road when the snow finally melts, you're like, ah, it's happening. And that's when the spring fever kicks in and we shall not be held accountable for any actions.
I love it.
Yes. So let's go into the Svalbard
Yeah.
Express. And I say that this is the return of the Svalbard Express. You can see here, fun fact, we had our first expedition to Svalbard, the archipelago within 800 miles of the North Pole in 1896. So we're
Ooh,
also the polar pioneers of expedition cruising.
lovely.
But we had a government contracted route here connecting mainland Norway to the high Arctic, to that Svalbard archipelago that brings you within 800 miles from the geographic North Pole. So this is our way of paying homage to our past. So when we thought of this itinerary, it really was how can we, honor our rich history and legacy. So this was one way to do it. So essentially we've kind of revived the old sportsman route. And
Mhm.
it's also a great itinerary for guests who perhaps really want to explore the high Arctic, but maybe they don't want to participate in an expedition that would mean zodiacking ashore because there's very little human infrastructure in the Svalbard
Mhm.
archipelago. But there are piers in Longyearbyen and there is a pier in New Ålesund. So this is, for all intents and purposes, a cruise. And by that, I mean you are walking off the ship. You are not getting in and out of a Zodiac.
Okay.
And if you tuned into Kristen's previous segment on the classic voyages, you will know that we have many modular opportunities here. So we do have a round trip that would go from Bergen, Honningsvåg, all the way up to Ny-Ålesund, then back down by means of Tromsø, back down to Bergen. So that is going to be a 16-day package,
Mhm.
generally speaking. But if you don't have that kind of vacation time, that is okay. We can also do a northbound where you do Bergen, Honningsvåg, debark in Longyearbyen, and you'll have a 3-day land package there. Or
Beautiful.
if the high Arctic holds a little bit more appeal, fly into Longyearbyen, spend three days there, then sail up to New Ålesund, and maybe the world's northernmost post office is on your bucket list. If that's the case, then you have to go to New Ålesund because that's where it is. And then you would come down by means of Tromsø. Very important though, at the bottom of the screen, you will see if you book within 90 days of any departure, it flips to a cruise only. So that when planning anything of that nature further out than 90 days, it's a package, generally speaking, with hotels,
Mhm,
and within 90 days is cruise only. So just keep
mhm.
that in mind.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. And this is just a screenshot of the 16-day package. And it is an overnight flight from North America to Bergen. So you're
Mhm,
probably going to book in that extra hotel night anyways. So we have taken that legwork out of the equation for you. So when you arrive in Bergen, just transfer on over, and then there's a pre-night, and then you would embark the MS Trollfjord and undertake the Svalbard Express. So I'll go over a few ports
mhm.
along the Svalbard Express. I will keep you here all day if I endeavor to take on all the ports. So I will try to limit myself. I have never been accused of being concise or quiet. So just rein me in if I start going off on tangents
No
here, but I'm
worries.
very excited about the
Yes.
product.
I mean, I
First,
talk
go ahead.
cruising all the time too, so I probably won't rein you in, but I just love cruising, so I love learning. It's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
you have Bergen, which you've probably heard about. Everyone knows us in Bergen because that is where the Hurtigruten terminal is for the classic route as well. And we do have 6 ships that we operate along the Norwegian coast under that classic route. So you have the beautiful wooden architecture here. Pay attention if you're into architecture. There's different themes and styles all throughout the various regions that you visit, and there's differing reasons, which I will discuss.
mhm.
But I do feel like this is my rival soccer team, so I will say that on a good day, it generally rains from top to bottom, and on a bad day, it rains side to side. So maybe this image is misleading, but we have captured this beautiful city on a sunny day.
Mhm.
Um, but it's Norway's second largest city. It
Okay.
is surrounded by fjords. Hiker's dream. Right here, you have a UNESCO World Heritage Site called
Mm.
Bryggen. You have the fish market. You have the funicular fløibanen that takes you to a vista point that's about 320 meters above sea level. So right here, restaurants, shops, you're already getting the full-on Norwegian experience, and it's a beautiful city, that minus the soccer team, but everything else about it is fine. And
I love the
so
colors of the homes. That's so beautiful.
yes,
It's
and this is
very
something
great.
you'll see in Denmark too, and Trondheim, and some other regions as well. This is
Yes.
quite common for Scandinavia.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have Åndalsnes. Why would you visit Norway? Of course, you want fjords, you want mountains. We have ticked off 2 fjords just getting into Åndalsnes. We have ticked off beautiful mountainscapes. So something to note again with our 130 years of legacy, we know all of this country. So our itinerary planners, they are well versed in the most beautiful ports. So these ports are handpicked. Some are common touristy areas, others are off the beaten path, but we have tagged this particular port with friluftsliv, which means outdoor living. So if you have Norwegian friends or you have been to Norway, you will know that we love the great outdoors.
Mhm.
Friluftsliv is basically outdoor living. We love to hike. We love to ski. I'm sure you've seen us in the Winter Olympics. We dominate every time. We're born with skis on our feet in Norway, and we're camping, kayaking, hiking. Any chance we get to be outdoors, we take it. These gentlemen here are standing at a vantage point called Rampestreken, and we have activities for varying degrees of mobility here. So you can either hike, again, culinary experience. Maybe you want to offset that caloric intake with a hike, or if you can take a gondola ride if you have limited mobility. So there's options for everyone here, but the vistas are already delivering here on day 2 of the cruise.
That's amazing. I love that. As somebody who has limited mobility, I find that that's really great because sometimes you go to ports and you just, okay, this looks nice. What am I going to do? There's mountains. Nope. But to provide the gondolas is amazing. Thank you for that.
Yes. We
Yeah.
do also have the Trollstigen Pass. So if you have looked up Norway or done some research, the Trollstigen Pass is actually a very popular excursion to take because it has those hairpin bends, the windy roads, several photo stops, waterfalls just popping up out of nowhere. You see these deep valleys, these high peaked mountains. So this would be an optional excursion out of Åndalsnes that you could book as an optional activity
Sounds
here.
like
And this would be
paradise. All
yes,
those
yes.
things included.
Maybe a little car sickness. I don't know. I just got back from the North Carolina mountains and it was quite windy and bendy. So but if you're not prone to car sickness, then this would absolutely be a wonderfully enhanced experience to add on to the cruise.
Beautiful.
Then Tirana. I love this port because it's so wonky. It lies on the Arctic Circle, right? It's 33 nautical miles offshore. So it's this tiny little archipelago in the middle of nowhere, essentially. And it's one of the smallest municipalities in Norway. So it just gets me to thinking. I grew up in a small village called Landsvik, 2,000 inhabitants, half of whom had my last name. Dating was just not an option. So I always wonder, I'm curious, like, how does life work out here in Tirana? But it also is so rich in history. It's one of the oldest fishing villages in Norway, one of the smallest municipalities, and we have archaeological finds dating back 9,000 years in this region. It is just wonderfully different.
That
And
is
this
so
is what we love. We just love this because where else are you going to see these wonky archipelagos than with
cool.
Hurtigruten, right?
Amazing.
And then they have caves here. So it's also home to the Tirana Festival. So that gives off great acoustics. So in the summertime, every year, they'll have musicians come out here and all of the Norwegians from neighboring communities, they'll flock out here and they'll camp for a few nights and then just enjoy the music and the scenery. So there would be some, with us, there will be some optional activities, island hopping opportunities, culture walks. Maybe you want to try the Norwegian fish cake or local beer, or Arctic dip, sauna, and swim. So here comes the next fact about Norwegians. We love saunas. All Scandinavians love saunas. It's very dark and cold, and so we need to warm up. So this is one of the oldest saunas in Norway. And B, we love to plunge our bodies into ice cold water any chance we get. Even as a kid growing up in Norway, we would cut, holes in the ice May 1st. And we would go swimming. We love to snow bathe and go swimming. I don't know why we do this, but we'll just brand this as a nice dose of cryotherapy. So take the polar plunge. And when you cross the Arctic Circle, in general, we always like to have a ceremony, if you will. And that ceremony may or may not be accompanied by some ice water. So there's going to be ice water. You might as well just jump in. And then, you get a certificate for crossing the Arctic Circle. Maybe you take a polar plunge. But this would be, when I go, I'm booking the Arctic dip, sauna, and swim because this is right up my alley.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it would be. Wow, that's cool though. That's neat. And then you'd go from one to the heat right into the pool, right? And that's into the lake,
Always.
pardon me.
And then right back to the heat. That's how
Yeah,
it works.
it's supposed
And
to be really good for your body and your respiratory system, I think. And
yes, absolutely. And I have plunged in Antarctica and I have plunged above the Arctic Circle in Greenland. So now I need to plunge in, well, I plunged as a kid. I feel like I've earned my stripes, but the next time I go, I will plunge again. So we're always jumping into ice cold water. Don't ask me why. It's a cultural thing.
okay.
Then we're going to go to Stokmarknes. And this is important because, again, through the recurring theme throughout the these what we call the iconic voyages, the Svalbard Express and North Cape Express, is that, we are paying homage to our rich history and past. So I'll pause the Stokmarknes right here. Let me talk about Vesterålen first. It is an adjacent archipelago to the Lofoten archipelago, not as well known. Equally as impressive, beautiful, has a great variation of landscapes that span from calm, peaceful beaches all the way to rugged alpine mountains and dramatic fjords and wilderness. And it's also a really great place for sea eagles. So there would be a sea eagle safari here. And as for the Hurtigruten birthplace, Stokmarknes is where it all began in 1893. So that is where we got our start. And this is why when we say that we're so intricately woven with the Norwegian history, I mean, you can see here in the image, it says Hurtigruten's hus. That's Hurtigruten's house. And this is the old decommissioned MS Finnmarken dating back to 1956. Granted, you're not going to see this if you go, this is an old image. So there is a full structure surrounding this vessel now, but I just like the nostalgic image image of here, but this will really give a nod to our past and really to showcase just how long we've been doing this and how important of a role we've played along the Norwegian coast throughout the years.
That's awesome.
And then we are going further north. We are going
Mhm.
to Honningsvåg, and this is one of the northernmost ports that we offer. It is the port that is the jump off point for the North Cape. The
Okay.
North Cape is considered to be the northernmost point of mainland Europe. So it's a cliff that sits about 1,000 feet above sea level. Think Kate Winslet, you're on top of the world. And it really does provide, it's a big bucket list destination.
Yes.
Interesting fact about Honningsvåg, very well known for king crab. And king crab was introduced by the Russians. It's known to be the Red Army, and they're quite an invasive species. They don't have any known predators. So when we go fishing for king crab, we're actually doing a service. And if you like king
Mhm.
crab, then this will be a double whammy for you. But it's also known for rich bird life. So throughout this Svalbard Express itinerary, it's perfect for birders.
Mhm.
So we mentioned sea eagles near the Lofoten and Vesterålen archipelagos. In the Honningsvåg region, you can see razorbills, puffins, skuas, gannets, and eagles as well up in the northern region. And then another fun fact about Honningsvåg, it's very rich in Sami culture. So that's another big draw to Norway, is to learn about the differing cultures along the way as well.
Yes. And what is that culture? What is that?
The Sami culture with reindeers, old ways of living, different spoken. So they're very traditional and they're very intricately woven in. Like they have the lavus for storytelling. They have different culinary traits along the way. They have the traditional Sami garb that they wear. So it's just an important part of the Norwegian history.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That's neat.
Yeah. So the North Cape, again,
Mhm.
you must take a selfie at the globe. When you cross the Arctic Circle, there's a globe. When you get to the
Mhm.
North Cape, there's a globe. So there's a recurring theme. You could do the North Cape and King Crab experience. If there are any adrenaline junkies, maybe you want a four-wheel to the North Cape, or if you are a birder, there would be a Honningsvåg hike and bird watching excursion in the Gjesverstappen Nature Reserve. So a few different activities here. We would be in port in Honningsvåg all day. So these new itineraries, they do allow for independent exploration because we do average between 4 and 12 hours in port. So it's a much closer experience for the North American client who might be used to having a longer port stay.
Mhm.
But just when you think that you've gotten as far north as you can go, we're going to say, but wait, there's more. We are going to the high Arctic, and we're going to pass an island called Bjørnøya, which is Bear Island, very well known for lots of bird life. So we're going to bust out the binoculars as we pass by Bjørnøya, and then we're going to come into Longyearbyen. And this is such a cool archipelago. So you don't need a visa to live in Svalbard. You cannot be born there. You're not allowed to die there because they don't have the modern medical facilities.
Oh.
And you have expats from over 50 different countries. So there's fewer than 3,000 inhabitants in Longyearbyen, and there's rumored to be more polar bears than people in the Svalbard archipelago region.
I love that.
So
That's great.
yeah. And it's known to be an Arctic desert. There's
Mhm.
also walrus, lots of migratory birds. Fun fact, if you have been to Antarctica and you endeavor to go to Svalbard, Arctic terns migrate all the way from Antarctica all the way to Svalbard.
Oh,
We
wow.
also have the bar with the highest number of spirits in Longyearbyen as well. I
Mhm.
suspect that's because we live in the polar night. The sun does not rise between November and January. So perhaps they supplement with a nice cocktail or what have you. But it's
Mhm.
just a wonderfully wonky and different way of life. Right now, we're squarely in midnight sun. The sun does not set between late April and late August in Svalbard. And tourism is very it's prevalent in this region, but they just live these lives of extremes. But they're some of the happiest people that I've ever met, and a lot of our colleagues on ship, they live in Longyearbyen when they're not on charter.
Okay.
So Yeah, and then Longyearbyen will be the half point turnaround. So it's not a bad, there is no bad itinerary with the Svalbard Express. If you get the full round trip, you're getting the highest number of ports. But if you need to take the shorter one, you get 3 days in Longyearbyen. So there would be 2 overnights, and there would be a couple of included activities. One would be a hybrid electric catamaran trip down a fjord called the Billefjord, and it would take you to a glacier called the Nordenskjoldbreen. So say that 5 times fast. Also, you would
I
have
can't say it once. Forget that.
some things. Sometimes I pronounce things in English, and other times it's in my
Oh,
Norwegian
goodness.
brain.
I just
But
came
the
back from Iceland and I couldn't say half of those names. These are worse. Forget that.
Oh yes, Iceland. We understand the Danes and the Swedes. I don't understand much. I can read some Icelandic, but it's very limited. So I will probably. Luckily, they all speak English in Iceland, so that's all
Very true.
great.
Yes,
But you
but
can
this
also
is a
hang out with the
beautiful.
reindeer as well at Camp
Oh,
Barents. There's a true Svalbard wilderness evening.
mhm.
So really kind of get the feel of what a wilderness evening is like and just go hang out with reindeer in Longyearbyen.
I love untouched wilderness, and that just fits that bill perfectly. It just is so like the way it was. It's nature. It's beautiful. Goodness, I like.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Ålesund as well. It's primarily researchers there. I want to say they probably have 20 or 30 year round, maybe a maximum, a stifling 200 people there in the summer.
Mhm.
And they largely conduct climate and glacial research up there. But yeah, if you want a bit of privacy, A, go to Svalbard, and B, also consider expedition, because we can get you where there are no people. I'm always joking about that. Oh, you need a break from people, you need to go on an expedition. Go down to Antarctica. Only penguins there. It's fine.
There you go. Great
Yeah,
greeting party.
yeah.
Beautiful.
So dog sledding on wheels would be one activity here. Svalbard Wilderness and History. There's a Svalbard Museum that you can visit, and of course, when you get to New Ålesund, there's that the post office that you could send a letter from. Maybe you want to send yourself a letter from the northernmost post office in the world.
Oh, beautiful. That's a neat idea.
Yeah. So that's it for the high Arctic. We are setting our sights back to mainland Norway, and we're going to go to Tromsø and Senja. So Tromsø, we will have spent a full day sailing north, but it's just a quick cargo stop. So while we do not, the Trollfjord on this itinerary will not operate as a ferry or carry guests from port to port, we will continue to carry cargo. We will continue to provision coastal communities, because it's very
Okay.
important for us to continue to be
Yeah.
a lifeline.
Hmm.
Not something anybody's going to see, because this is just this would just look like provisioning, but it's really our way of continuing our rich legacy here. The star will be Senja, and it's northern Norway's kind of little Norway, because it boasts of nature characteristics that you find all up and down the Norwegian coast. So that's why
Hmm.
we call it Little Norway. It's also ranked by CNN to be one of the top 10 most beautiful islands. So we're giving you the beautiful landscapes and nature and fjords all along the way. And there's so many fjords we don't even mention, because they're smaller fjords, but it's very fjord rich. Lots of wildlife in this region, and the opportunity to take a dual port excursion. Maybe you want to hop off the ship in Tromsø and then follow the ship parallel and re-meet it again in Senja. So you would have learned about that in the classic route as well, how we kind of do these dual port excursions. Wildlife safaris, kayaking opportunities. Maybe you want to learn about the Hurtigruten seaweed farm in this region as well. So there's no shortage of activities to participate in, whether it be through Hurtigruten or independent exploration with some
Love
hiking and
that.
such as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And it's
and
beautiful.
it is,
Yeah.
yes. And Lofoten, if you are tuning in and you have thought about Norway, I'm going to bet that you have seen images of Lofoten. It is one of the most pictured areas of Norway, one of the most scenic areas as well. And Svolvær is known to be the beating heart of the Lofoten archipelago. So lots of artists come here. They come here for the light. We have an astronomer, Tom Kurz, that comes with us on the classic route for astronomy voyages. He calls Svolvær Lucky Svolvær for the winter time. It's a great place for northern lights in the winter as well. And we've slated this port as sustainability because we do have a beach cleanup planned here. So again, the theme of generating awareness and just offering up these beach cleanups, and it's a way to really create these change agents on board. And just, none of us are malicious in the way we consume, but I don't always think we're cognizant of our consumer behaviors and habits. So there's always like these little micro learning sessions all throughout. So this would be one of those opportunities for beach cleanup. And if you have a nice heavy duty grabber, then this would be a good place to use it.
Yeah, cool.
And this also differs from the classic route. So that Bergen-Kirken, this Bergen route, we don't have a long length of time in any of the Lofoten Island ports. So we're here for about 8 hours.
Okay.
That is by demand from the clients, the North American client, because you want to explore independently. And the
Mhm.
beauty of a lot of our ports is the city center is walking distance. You don't have to book optional excursions. You can easily just explore on your own. We just need the
Mhm.
time. And we do
Yeah,
have the longer port stay. So 8 hours. So if you want to go hiking, you can go for the
beautiful.
beach cleanup. If you want to go swimming, if you want to go to a brewery, there's lots of breweries up and down. I feel like we could sell this as a brewery tour as well. In the wintertime, there's a recurring theme here that we might consume some beer in the winter. But
And they probably have a little bit different recipe at each port, so you need to try them all, right? You need to
yes,
try that out, yes.
and some of the suppliers we work with, we have distilleries where we factor in glacial, water from glaciers and such, glacial ice. So there's all kinds of different partnerships that we have. We just aged sparkling wine at 111 meters. It was called Bubbles of the Sea, or Havets Bobred, and we just kept the bottles down there for about 6 months, and they're currently being served on the Svalbard Express. So I think there's another batch of bottles that are going to go down. So no shortage of just wonky, fun projects that are just quite interesting.
And glacier water is so fresh. It's delicious. Yep.
Yes.
You just can't, you have to try it to know that flavor. It's so good.
And all the water, you can drink the water anywhere on the ship as well. So everything is, and yeah, high quality. I grew up on well water from the mountains and such
Mhm.
as a kid. So no better water indeed.
Yes.
So then you have Ålesund and Jørenfjord. So I don't have an image of Ålesund in this
Mhm.
slide, but I have it for the North Cape Express coming up after the fact here, because we're also stopping there. But Ålesund, short stop, we have wonderful architecture there. The highlight of the southbound route would be the Jørenfjord, though, because this is an adjacent fjord to the Geirangerfjord. And as you can see here, these vertical mountains just shooting out from the fjords, just really rich in nature. And again, this is a big reason why guests love to explore our country, because it's really just exceptionally beautiful. So
Mhm.
there are
Mhm.
2 ways to explore the Jørenfjord. So you can either just stay on ship, or there would be an optional excursion for the Mountain Peaks Fjord Scenic Bus Tour. So this would kind of take you adjacent to the ship, and you would pass by Øya and Urke. There's this small town with all of 40 inhabitants. So once again, just small Norwegian village life. I don't even know if it counts as a village with 40 people, but then they would meet the ship. So you can do a dual port excursion here as well. Hop off in Ålesund and then
Mhm.
meet the ship. I think it's in Sabu. We would pick them back up. So that's just a little bit about the the Svalbard Express. Again,
Mhm.
dominating theme here would be midnight sun.
Mhm.
Loads of optional activities. So I'm glad you brought up the issue of mobility as well. So every single excursion that we offer is going to be labeled level 1 through 4. So
Mm.
1, scenic bus tour,
Mhm.
limited, very little required. Level 4 would be kayaking, hiking. It might be snowmobiling, four-wheeling, anything of that nature
Yep.
that just requires that higher degree of mobility. So just do
Mhm.
what's right for you.
Awesome. I love that. So you
Final
dress as you want and you do an excursion as you want. That sounds perfect.
Yeah, it's so laid back. This is not a vacation you need a vacation from. It's just really just a tranquil experience. And then the final slide on the Svalbard Express is this iteration of the Midnight Sun. It's just different, above the Arctic Circle. This is what we all have. My grandparents came over, so I grew up below the Arctic Circle, but we still had 24-hour daylight, and
Mhm.
they just couldn't get over it. The sun, we would be out playing sports until 2 or 3 in the morning, but this is what it looks like at the North Cape during the midnight sun
Oh,
period and
goodness.
through uh, all of Svalbard. So
Hmm.
yeah. And if you're an
Down
insomniac,
in the
fear
yep.
not.
Look at
We're
that.
hugging the coast. There's daylight 24/7. Just sit outside. If you can't sleep, not a problem.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. So that would be the summer. So let's shift gears to the making new history. And this will be the last segment that we cover here
Yeah.
before we just go over the ship real quick. But the making new history here. And again, we are no strangers to sailing the Norwegian coast. But this time, this is the first time we will sail in and out of our capital, Oslo,
Mhm.
and just tacking on this lower level. And you can see that we covered the vast majority of the Norwegian coastline. So this is a really rich itinerary. And as I mentioned, these will take place between September and April. And the dominating theme here will, of course, be Northern Lights. And
Yes.
you'll see the Arctic Circle, and I'll get to the Aurora Oval, but Northern Norway is prime for Northern Lights.
Mhm.
Once again, we are modular. So this will be one ship. So there's not going to be as many departures
Mhm.
as the classic route. So it's just the Trollfjord. The first iteration would be Bergen, Honningsvåg will wrap around here to Oslo, and then the next iteration will go Oslo, Honningsvåg down to Bergen. If we have slaves to corporate America tuning in, that is not a problem because we also can shorten this instance. You can go Bergen, Honningsvåg, Tromsø, or Tromsø, Honningsvåg, Bergen as well. So that would shorten the itinerary. Always modular with Hurtigruten. We have many options for various inquiries.
Yeah, no, I love that. That because everybody gets different vacation times. They're not able to get away for as long, so they can still experience it with the 7-day voyages.
Absolutely. And then
Love it.
once again, just pay attention to the bottom here. If we're within 90
Mhm.
days, the same rule applies that there's no hotels or city tours
Yes.
or anything, that it's just a cruise only. But anything further out than 90 days will always be sold as the package. And once
Awesome.
again, we've taken some of the legwork out of the equation. So, if you're going to Norway, you want to explore. You don't just want to land, hop on the ship and go. You want to just, okay, decompress. There's a
Mhm.
time change you need to acclimate to. So for 23-24 season, it's a 15-day tour for the round trip. And that means 2 hotel nights here in Bergen. On day 2, city tour. If
Mhm.
you wanted to start out of Oslo, we would flip the itinerary, but it would be 3 days in Oslo. Day 2 would be the Oslo city tour.
Okay.
Um, for next season, we've shortened it. So it'll be 14 days, 1 overnight. And then on
Mhm.
your way to the ship, the city tour would take place. Then we would embark. But there's
Okay.
always that element of the pre-night that, arguably, especially in the wintertime, you need to book anyways, because
Mm.
plans we make, Mother Nature can break, flights can cancel. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure that that you've banked in enough time. So that is
It's good to
all
have that
packaged
buffer.
in. Yes,
Your
always
luggage
never
could
a
get
bad
lost.
idea.
It could take a couple days to get to you, and you're set then. So
Yes, I fall squarely within team carry-on. I'm going to Norway in the colder months. I'm going to try to do carry-on. We'll see how I fare. I don't like to check bags, but if I do, I will have air tags, so it will be fine.
you'll know where it is.
Yes. So again, dominating theme,
Oh,
Northern Lights. So maybe we're Hurty Who to you. Maybe you haven't heard of us, but you have definitely heard of Northern Lights, and Northern Norway is very common for Northern Lights. We really have great Northern Light sightings, but I'm in sales. Maybe I'm gaslighting you, so fact check me. I implore you all, check out the Aurora Oval and Northern Lights forecast. You will find that Northern Norway is squarely beneath the oval
mhm,
and really just a prime location to see the Northern Lights. You'll see that Iceland falls in there, Greenland, Canada, parts of Alaska as well. But I think we still have a leg up on Iceland, our Icelandic counterparts that have the best marketing teams in the business because everybody associates Northern Lights with Iceland. But our ships, let me tell you why I think that Northern Lights are best seen by ship. There is
yeah.
less light pollution.
Mhm.
If you're in a city, you have the light pollution, you don't see them as clearly. We are out to sea. So therefore, very dark, very little light pollution. And the other thing, maybe some listeners here have been to Iceland and they didn't see the lights because maybe it was a cloudy night. We are a floating observatory. We can sail past cloud cover, right?
Yes.
So we need 2
Yeah.
ingredients. We need
Mhm,
darkness and we need clear skies to see the northern lights. So
mhm.
that's why I've also kind of tagged in, average daylight hours by port and by month because it will range the further north that you go.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
the dominating theme would be October through March. We're pretty confident about the Northern Lights. And I'll just say that, there's a Northern Lights promise guarantee in there that I will discuss here at the
Yeah.
end. Then we're going to go to Molde, just a few ports again, and I have some pretty impressive Northern Lights photos here. Molde is not a tourist trap. It's not as well known as maybe Kristiansund or one of the other ports that we normally call upon with the classic route, but it is the capital commercial center of Romsdal. It's the city of roses, and it's a safe haven for us in areas with inclement weather. And then I'm also going to talk about architecture here. So we mentioned architecture in Bergen and how it was the colorful wooden housing.
Yeah.
Molde was heavily bombed during World War II. So when they opted to rebuild, they have more of a clean line architectural structure. So this is a story that you're going to learn throughout the voyage. Why is the architecture the way it is? And just the way of living, way of life. You'll also have a Romsdal museum here. There's a cathedral here, the Molde Cathedral. It's a Gothic style cathedral dating back to 1957. There's also a nice hiking opportunity to a place called Varden. So in Norway, there's always the Vard, the wards, if you will, the little mountains of rocks or the piles of rocks on top of mountains. So there is a vantage point that you could hike to here.
Beautiful.
And then the optional excursion here is the Atlantic Road. And this was acclaimed to be the engineering feat of the century in Norway, the world's most beautiful drive. So it's just about a 5-mile stretch of road, but it literally will connect with like little islets and skerries and such. So very popular activity for guests who opt to visit sail with us along the coast of Norway.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, this is one of my favorite ports, and the only reason being I am from a village with 2,000 inhabitants. This is a village with 2,000 inhabitants. So on the way into Lødingen, you have already crossed the Gullefjord and the Unfjord, 2 fjords. Once again, just getting into Lødingen. Beautiful mountainscapes, but the theme here would be village life, hidden gem of Norway. You're not going to find any other commercial liners that are going to take you to Lødingen. And also, this is one of our previous stops. So on an earlier iteration of our classic Bergen-Kirken, this Bergen route, we did call upon Lødingen. So it's almost like a homecoming for us. So everything we've chosen is by design. I love this picture because this could just as well be my hometown with these little, I don't know if you have these in Canada, but these like, yeah, the little snow poles there with the reflective. So it's just, it brings back memories of Norway. I'm like, oh yes, more cows and people. I love it.
I live out in the country, so we have those at the end of our driveway because people started going in the ditch. They didn't see it, so we put them right at the end so they don't go into the ditch when they're backing out. So I know all about those. They're great. They work well.
I love them. Snow poles. I didn't know what they were called in English, so thank you. That
that's
helps
what
me.
I call them, but they are just reflective poles that we stick in the snow, and it shows people not to go into the ditch. So,
well, from here on forth, we dub this the snow pole. It's sticking. We're going to make it a thing. Okay, we're going to Alta too. So Alta is a common place for guests to travel because it is the capital of Northern Lights. You have a Northern Lights cathedral here. You have a magical we have an igloo hotel here. You have dog sledding opportunities here. There's lots of history in this region. Again, you have this is home to the Finnmark dog sledding race. It's the longest dog sledding race in northern Norway. I think it takes place in March. And then it's just a really great place to see the Northern Lights. I think it falls right smack beneath the Aurora Oval. There's not a lot of light pollution here. And then also there is a lot of Sami culture here as well. So, and I should pause here to say that you'll probably learn about the origins of the Northern Lights or different myths and legends. So in Sami culture, for example, they believe that the Northern Lights were perceived to have supernatural powers that were used in disputes. Others would believe that the Northern Lights were the souls emanating from the dead to be treated with immense respect. And there's a heavy Sami presence in the region. You can still hear Sami being spoken in the streets. You'll see these lavu structures here. This is the storytelling gathering place that has been used for thousands of years in Sami culture as well. Maybe you'll see some reindeer along the way here in Alta.
That'd be so cool. That's really neat. I really love history and culture, and that encompasses both. So that's awesome.
Yes, there's no shortage of history. And a fun fact, just totally unrelated to everything else, we did invent the cheese slicer, so you're all welcome for your charcuterie boards. Um, this is what we hope that you
Oh,
will see. So we're very confident that the northern lights will appear. This is the norm, not the exception. So this is what we hope that you'll see as you sail along the Norwegian coast. This is the North Cape Express. So once again, we're going to Kate Winslet our way up to the North Cape. We have to stop by Honningsvåg. It's going
mm,
to look a little different. This might be a polar night stop. So in Honningsvåg, we have the midnight sun where the sun doesn't set in the summer. And then between November and January, you have the polar night where the sun does not rise. So it'll get to a blue light at best. But
mm.
again, what if you're going to see northern lights? Enjoy, because it's a polar night. You have ample darkness. It's one of the ingredients you need to see them. So there would be opportunities again to go to the North Cape and go experience some king crab, or go on a culture walk with a beer tasting. I feel like a little bit of a lush here. I keep talking about breweries and beer tastings, but these are options all up and
It
down the
is.
Norwegian coast.
Yeah.
And
And imagine the picture that you'd get of yourself with the globe and the northern lights in the back. That would just be phenomenal. Wow.
it would,
That's the keeper.
yes.
Hmm.
Even better though, if we have some adrenaline junkies, why not snowmobile to the North Cape? That is also an option. So you can absolutely do this as well on
Hmm.
your way to the North Cape. This would again probably be a polar night time frame, because we're generally there during the daytime hours. So as in October it would still be somewhat light, and as well as February and March. But yes, so this is a great place. Once again, the North Cape is a very popular place to visit, but so is Tromsø. So on both the Svalbard Express and the North Cape Express, we'll have a full day in the Tromsø region. This is our old headquarter city as well, so we are no strangers to Tromsø, largest city in northern Norway with about 80,000 inhabitants. Lots of polar history here. This is a big provisioning stop for seafarers over the years. So no shortage of history here, and it's a given. Tromsø is known for northern lights. It's known for this bustling northern lifestyle. They have dog sledding opportunities in this region. There would be whale watching in the Arctic silence, in adjacent fjords and such. And then, of course, a husky meet and greet experience. So this is from my own experience in 2016. I'll pause here. The light here, this is a March departure. So you can see from the middle image to the right image that the light drops. But if there's photographers tuning in, there's such special light all throughout the country at all times of the year. There is
Yeah.
a puppy section, there is a working dog section, and there is a retirement section as well. So we got to visit all three. We did
Yes.
get peed on a lot by puppies. So if you have rain pants, not the worst idea to wear them on
Hmm.
this excursion. But how can you just not love dogs and puppies and such?
Oh,
And it was
goodness.
about a 5 or 7 kilometer trek, and they're all just like barking and going crazy. But when they start, it's like all you hear is the panting, running, and it's their favorite thing to do. It's
Yeah.
really a fantastic experience. And we ended up in a lavvu with coffee and cake, sharing stories at the end of the excursion.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. And like you said, those dogs, they're working dogs. They love to pull the sleds. It's just their dream. And that's amazing. I can imagine the yipping and then off they go and it's silence and all you hear is the snow. That's awesome.
Yes, I have a German Shepherd Husky mix as well, and he loves to pull things. So it's in their DNA. That's what they
Yeah.
love to do.
Awesome.
Once again, Stokmarknes, Svalbard does look a little different in the winter than it does in the summer. And again, I did mention that our astronomer, Tom Kurz, called this Lucky Svalbard. He said he saw some of the best red northern lights in this region. So we both have our own, his favorite month, I'll just throw it out there, is February. My favorite month is October, because we both seem to find that we're the luckiest at that time frame.
Yeah.
But Svalbard, again, beating heart of the Lofoten archipelago, great place for northern lights. Once again, Stokmarknes, we're stopping at our birthplace because it's very important to get that history in as well, because this
Mhm.
is, and we're attributing these itineraries to our rich legacy.
Yes.
But just imagine, I mean, this is also a very well photographed place. This photograph is not uncommon. Lots of people get this image. And again, as we sail through the regions above the Arctic Circle, chances are very high to see the northern lights.
Yeah. And to see them dancing as they do behind that mountain would just it would be such a gorgeous picture and a gorgeous memory, just to see them moving, and then the gorgeous lights of the houses, and everything's set right there for a great photo.
Oh yeah, there's no bad time when there's northern lights. And also, just a sidebar, the Scotsmen, they believe that the northern lights were just merry dancers across the sky, and the Finns believe that it was foxes that were running so fast that their tails were creating sparks. So you'll learn all about every last myth and legend and lore about how the northern lights come to be, and you're probably going to learn the science behind it as well, though.
It's awesome. That's great. I love learning.
Yeah. So then
Amazing.
we have Brønnøysund, and this this is Hurtigruten Mountain right here. So this is adjacent to Brønnøysund, which is a fishing town with about 5,000 inhabitants. And you'll see this hole in the middle of the mountain. And of course, the question is, well, Linn, how did that hole come to be? And I have a legend for it that I'd love to offer up here. So there was, according to the legend of Helgeland Mountains, there was the troll Hestemannen, or the horseman. He was jilted in love, and as the girl Lekameya attempted to flee from him, he shot an arrow after her. There was a troll king of Mount Sumnafjellet. He saw this act, and in a heroic attempt to rescue her, he threw his hat in the path. The arrow pierced the hat, created the hole, the sun rose, and everybody was turned to stone. So that is the legend behind that hole. If that's not your thing, that's okay. The other explanation is that this was created during an ice age. So
Either way,
whichever
that's
route you want to go, there's stories either way.
yeah, no, I love that. That's awesome. That's great.
And Brønnøysund is also a great fishing village. So a recurring theme throughout the North Cape Express too. You will hit many fishing villages. You're going to learn about the way of life. Export, again, as I mentioned, was really integral in the prosperity of the country. So you'll learn all about that along the way as well.
That's great.
Ålesund, I'm back to my architectural theme here. So in 1904, there was a nasty fire that decimated large swaths of the Ålesund downtown. So when they rebuilt, they opted to rebuild in Art Nouveau style. So that is where you have this unique architecture here. So in Bergen, colorful mountains. Molde, you have the sleek design resulting from the bombings during World War II. Ålesund, you have the Art Nouveau style. So you're going to see all these different characteristics, and we'll tell you the story as to why we chose the way we did and how this all came to be. But if there's any architectural enthusiast here, then this would be a great itinerary, because once again, there's another brewery here at one of the optional excursions, architecture and breweries.
They go together.
Yes, explore Ålesund on foot, or there would be a bus tour that you can visit the surrounding areas. Ålesund too is the jump off point for the Jøden Fjord, beautiful fjord, and also the Geirangerfjord Fjord, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You can see in Norway, even myself, I grew up 300 meters from the Trondheimsfjord. We all have waterfront views in Norway. This is just, I mean, we're very lucky to have, but it's because we have 1,700 fjords. So just, there's no getting away from the water.
There somewhere.
It's everywhere. Beautiful. Yes. So Ålesund, again, will be about a half day here, but it's a beautiful city. This picture was taken from Mount Aksla. So I'm just going to dial it back to the culinary joking we were doing. It's a 418-step trek to get this beautiful picture. And once again, I don't think anybody's going to have the discipline to resist the dessert buffet. So take the hike, just walk it off. It's fine. We're on the unplanned plan with our voyages anyways.
My husband always jokes. He says, the longer I spend in the gym, the more I can spend at the dinner table. So
there you go.
The longer you can spend hiking in the mountains and looking at the fjords, the more you can sit and eat. So it works out well.
100%. Yes. And there's no holds barred on board. So we want everybody to indulge and just enjoy. And but this ties in with friluftsliv and hiking. We just absolutely adore being outside.
Yeah, beautiful.
Then we have, so this is where we're making new history. We have now left the staple Bergenskirkenes Bergen route. We are now in Hardangerfjord and Haugesund. Once again, You want fjords? We deliver. This is Norway's second longest fjord, coming in at 111 miles long, the world's fifth longest fjord. You've probably seen this image. It is the troll tongue. There's crazy people who get married here. This is a photo stop. I am deathly scared of heights. I will not be here or on Pulpit Rock myself, but this is Trolltunga, the troll tongue, which is right next to the Hardangerfjord. And then
Mhm.
another reason people want to visit Norway will be the rich Viking history. So Haugesund, no shortage of Viking history up and down the Norwegian coast, but Haugesund is known to be the home of the Viking kings. So there would be a Viking theme here.
Mhm.
Connect with your inner Viking. We celebrate all things Viking. In Norway, we are okay with being heathens. There would be a Viking tour by bus that you could book,
Mhm.
or a Viking experience by boat if you really want to get jiggy with it,
Mhm.
or e-bike the coast. And there's lots of local artists in the Haugesund region as well. It's really a beautiful city.
Amazing.
So there would be a Haugesund art walk as well.
Beautiful. And I mean, an artist, that's an artist's dream right there. It's
Oh
just to
yeah.
stand up there and paint and wow, so nice.
They actually, so we have, I'll get to this in a later slide, but we do have handcraft and art kind of sessions on board. So right now, the Svalbard Express is underway, and they were
Mhm.
posting painting sessions. So they were sitting outside in the beautiful nature, just painting and taking in,
Wow.
just absorbing the experience. So this would be
Mhm.
something that would be offered. It is not hyperbole to say that you can crochet, you can knit. If you're a cribbage player, bring it on. I'll challenge you. Like, this is definitely the type of environment to just take
Yeah,
it all
soak
in.
it in. Beautiful.
Yes.
Love it.
Then this is the last port. I know I'm very long-winded, so thank you for bearing with me here. But
It's
Farsund and
beautiful. It's worth
Kristiansand,
it.
so
Yeah.
much to talk about. But
Yes.
Farsund and Kristiansand will carry the World War II history. So I'll pause there to say that, all up and down the Norwegian coast, we still bear the scars from World War II. So my hometown of Landsvik overlooked the Trondheimsfjord, which was a strategic stronghold for Nazi Germany.
Mhm.
And there's abandoned German bunkers that I would play in as a kid. So
Oh, wow.
in Farsund, it's known to be the city of lighthouses, but there's also a German fortress here. And then Kristiansand, which is Norway's fifth largest city, this is home to World War II Gestapo headquarters, the official secret police of Nazi Germany and German occupied
Mm.
Europe. So all up and down the coast, you'll learn about the impact that World War II had on our country. We do like it showcases in this region. You'll see it through the architectural choices post-bombing. So there's no shortage of history buffs out there. And this is another element of the onboard experience, is all about educating and really kind of showcasing the true Norway.
Mhm. Amazing. So
Yeah.
beautiful.
And then we have, again, over 30 optional excursions to choose from, ranging from level 1 through 4. And then let me get to the Northern Lights Promise. So this
Yeah.
one is for the 14 or 15 day, or any cruise really 11 nights and longer across the Hurtigruten Norway fleet. If
Okay.
there are no Northern Lights occurrences between October 1st and March 31st, you get a free cruise. So that's how certain we are that the Northern Lights
Yeah.
will show themselves. I will repeat though, if there are no occurrences. So if, not if you don't see them. So pack your loud pajamas, get ready to look disheveled out on deck at 3 o'clock in the morning. We welcome that. That's where some of your best friendships are going to be formed, at a meet cute, chasing the lights at 3 a.m. You're wearing Mickey Mouse pajamas. He's wearing Scooby-Doo pajamas. It's a match made in heaven. But if there are no occurrences, you get a free 6 or 7 day cruise the following season. So that's how prevalent the Northern Lights really are in
Yeah.
Norway.
That's awesome. And that's great that you do that, because you're solidifying and you're saying absolutely you are going to see it. Like, we know you're going to, and it's going to happen. So that's beautiful. Not if you stay in your
Absolutely.
room, you have to get out, but
Yes,
it's
and
just
keep the
gorgeous.
intercom on. So when we make the
Mhm.
announcements, just be ready to get out at 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're all looking crazy at that time,
Oh,
anyways. But that's why you're there. You're there to chase the lights. So come join us, become an Aurora chaser with us.
oh, beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. That's amazing.
Okay, well then final would just be the onboard experience. So
Yes.
Trollfjord, again, very important when looking into any Hurtigruten product. So we have the interior cabins, we have ocean view, lower decks, you have the more upscale Arctic superiors, and the larger expedition suites.
Mhm.
Whatever the fancy, treat the stateroom as your bedroom. The ship, this is not meant, you're not meant to spend an exorbitant amount of time in your cabin. And if you
Right.
do, I apologize, we've sold you the wrong experience. So the whole ship is built for your comfort. And you're going to find that the majority of your time is spent in the 2-story panorama lounge. That's your living room. The
Oh,
multiple
beautiful.
restaurants, those are your kitchens. It's very tranquil. If you want casinos and late night discotheques, please don't book us. We don't offer that. We offer
Mhm,
edutainment, onboard lectures and presentations, movie nights, photography tips,
mhm,
bird life, if you want to photograph wildlife or landscapes, nature, northern lights. So we're always going to be there with our photography tips and tricks. As
mhm.
we mentioned, the handcraft art classes, they were just painting up in Svalbard the other day.
Amazing.
Library, taking the book, and we do hug the coast for most of the way. So you're just leisurely watching this beautiful landscape just glide by.
Mhm.
And of course, fitness facilities. Once again, last culinary joke, offset the caloric intake there. So
Exactly.
I'm probably starting to sound a little tired with my culinary jokes, but it's
No
really true
worries.
though.
Yeah.
And Coastal Experience Team. This is the team that you will arrive as a guest, but you will leave as a friend. These are local guides that basically hail up and down the Norwegian coastline,
Mhm.
and we host what we call points of interest out on deck. So if we pass areas of historical and cultural significance, we will invite you out on deck. Maybe there's a lighthouse in the middle of a fjord where the pastor had to tie his kids up to ropes so they didn't get swept away with the currents, or it's this mountain where this Norse god proposed to this Norse goddess. So very important for us to tell the story of our rich history and past in Norway.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And like you said,
Okay.
you're there for Norway. You're there for outward facing. So that's amazing that you have guides that help you and teach you about it too.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
then we have the Norway's Coastal Kitchen, which really draws inspiration from the ingredients along the coast. And I've already mentioned that we have 80% of our food that's sourced locally. We do get rave reviews for our culinary experiences.
Yeah.
So I'll just touch quickly on the restaurants and bar. This will be the
Mhm.
last slide. So thank you for
Okay.
joining here. But Flora, main restaurant, and it's inspired by Norway's edible herbs and berries, mushrooms, flowers, fruits and veggies, always seasonal too. Our menus are seasonal depending on which ingredients we can source. This will be all day dining for all guests, buffet, seated meal timing depends on when we're in port. Brasserie Arran is kind of our nod. It's our way of showing respect to the Sami culture once again for
Mhm.
everything that they've done for Norway. Arran is a northern Sami word for the fire at the heart of Alavu. So that dwelling always has the fire in the middle, and that's where everybody would gather around to tell stories. So that's the intent with Brasserie Arran. And then you could also have the traditional dishes here with a modern twist. Maybe you want the Sami reindeer stew, sliced smoked reindeer meat with lingonberry aioli, pickled herring, no shortage of options here. And then you have Rust, Arctic fine dining, all day dining for sweet guests. And this is inspired by the ancient fish bank of Rust in the Lofoten Islands, also a nod to what gave Norway its prosperity, which was the export of fish all those years ago. And you can have some interesting ingredients here. So it would not be uncommon to have ingredients such as seaweed, kelp, Arctic pearls, sea urchins. But this should be heaven to any foodie who's tuning in, because foodies love to try new things.
Mhm.
And there's going to be food tastings on board. We are aiming to host some culinary demonstrations. So how do we cure fish? Do we salt it? Do we smoke it? So the preservation methods. We are also very keen on minimizing food waste, using every part of every ingredient to
Mm.
minimize any waste. So there will be educational features about that as well. And then last nod, once again, I'm back to the bar, but we have a 1893 bar, 2-story bar,
Okay.
Nordic
Yeah.
cocktails where you might want to try akivit. I call that the bye-bye liquor. So whenever Lynn drinks it, she goes bye-bye. But there's lots of, or maybe you want to try the drinks that are infused with the local berries that are in season and such. So that's what we mean by Nordic cocktails. And again,
Yeah.
very leisurely laid back on board atmosphere there.
That sounds wonderful. My goodness. Wow. That's
You
great.
made it.
We did
You
it.
made it. You did.
Well, that was so fascinating. I enjoyed learning along with all of you guys. That was just incredible. So thank you so much, Lynn, for putting all of that together. It is really appreciated. So thank you again, and I hope everybody has a great week. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Kathleen. Always a pleasure.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this week's episode with Linn from Hurtigruten. It was really, really fascinating to learn all about the history, to learn about, each of the ports. I just love, love, love learning about all of those great old Scandinavian kind of ports. So that was super awesome that she took the time and did that. I know it was a little long. Thank you so much for watching the whole thing. It was much appreciated. Make sure that you reach out to me to book. It's info@plentyofsunshinetravel.com. I would be honored to help you get on board Hurtigruten and see those northern lights, but you have to share the pictures with me because I want to see those. So it was just incredible, and I really want to help you guys get on board. So either if you're seeing the 24-hour sunshine or you're seeing the northern lights, it's still a wonderful, fascinating itinerary. So thank you so much for watching. Next week, I'm going to be meeting with Cindy, and Cindy is from Norwegian Cruise Line, and we're going to be looking at some of their wonderful itineraries as well. Thank you again, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye, or I'll see you on board. Bye for now.